503, I call this meeting of the school board to order. First order of business is to have the administrators review their changes to the budget.
And so to bring the proposed budget, the board proposed it down to match the budget committee's budget. We had met and had some tough discussions, and we came up with these options. And that was, we were going to, at one point, the board had voted to add in the NHDI for Walpole and increase the library assistant hours for Charlestown Primary. So we removed those from the budget. We have $7,000 in consumables that are primarily related to the math program that the 7th and 8th graders don't care for, so they're doing their own stuff. So anyway, they, between the three areas, they felt that they could remove $7,000 worth of the consumables. We've eliminated the grade 1 Chromebook replacement cycle. This is an additional grade level replacement cycle from what we had recommended initially to for our 240 whatever thousand. Art said that we could reduce transportation by an additional 15 grand, so that's 25 between the two rounds of adjustments. And then we have proposed the elimination of 2 positions. And then there's an adjustment to reduce our current vacancy management of 160,000 to make the number come to the 179. The positions that we're proposing that we eliminate, one is, can I talk about the position specifically? One is the union position and one is a support staff position. One is a non-union and one is a support staff. And there's justification for those, for being able to eliminate those positions.
Good question.
Yes.
How is transportation being reduced? I don't understand how we've
The
reduced.
diesel line. So it's just
How
that
do we buy less diesel? I don't. Have to put diesel in the.
there was discussion about field trips and athletics that we could double up trips for teams headed in the same direction so that we could have a savings in diesel.
Okay. All right.
So it's an efficiency measure.
Yes. So my dilemma coming out of Monday night was that I had 2 different budget numbers. I didn't have anything approved by the board to get me to the budget committee number, but the budget committee number is what goes on the warrant article and all of my official documents. So to that end, to make sure that my documents agreed with the budget committee's presentation, I just put it into vacancy management because I didn't have any place to put it. So I guess the purpose tonight is that we wanted to disclose and discuss these because we did not on Monday. And then I need direction from the board as to where we're making the $179,000 adjustment to get to the budget committee number so that I can accurately report that to the state.
And does that also involve accurately reporting the default budget?
Yes, it would impact the default budget because there are 2 proposed eliminations. Currently, the default budget as it's being presented, I did not adjust, I don't believe, the vacancy management because I didn't have anything approved by the board. So I didn't make any changes to the default budget other than to add in the retirement buyout that they're gonna have to have. And I did, so that is offset by an adjustment to the vacancy management, but those were the only changes that I made to the default budget, so it came to the same bottom line.
Yes, Kevin.
So my concern about some of these adjustments, especially like the NHDI, is that I think that in this discussion here where we're having this discussion with Walpole about them separating, and one of the reasons is they don't have control of their budget, they can't buy the things they think they want to buy. Is that if we take that out, where we are feeding that fire. So I am, I'm concerned about removing that because that just makes, it just increases the narrative. That I think we need to have my suggestion would be leave it all in vacancy management, and once the budget actually approved, then we can make adjustments. If we need to make adjustments to make the budget match, once the vote occurs.
Can I add something to that real quick? I echo the sentiments on Walpole, but just from an objective standpoint. And just as an example, I think there's value in waiting. So for example, with the increased, the library assistant hours, if in further discussions, that could become a position that would, potentially, provide some type of interventions or offset something in the future, or provide something that takes weight off in different, we just don't want to be short-sighted, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, oh, great, we can save $13,000, but what's the real cost of what we're talking about?
I'll tell you that the discussion regarding the two justifications, so these two items that we've just mentioned, was the reason those were put on the table to reduce was to I guess, show a good faith gesture towards, we hear you and hear your concerns, and the budget committee, while my understanding is that they supported the items, they didn't support an addition to the budget.
To add to that a little bit, I think they supported those two things, and they just think we can find the money in other things. And so in terms of Walpole specifically, they asked it to be put in essentially like a line item. We've said yes, put in whatever it is that you think you need, you just have to find the money for it. So it's not so much saying, no, you can't have the program, you can, it just has to be with the same bottom line that you currently are presenting, I think. So yes, we're supporting them having an HDI at their school as they've asked for. They just have to find the $3,500 to pay for it from some other place versus an additional appropriation. I don't know if I think that the library assistant is the same. Just because I think there are fewer places to find that kind of dollar in Charlestown. $3,500 can be found in a supply line or something else where a person is a person.
So, sorry, I can't just sit there and be quiet.
No, please.
So my response to that, though, is that we collectively as a team reviewed our budgets, and every single area put on the table where they felt they could put money. I'm not confident that we have room to find $3,500 in the local budget, because they have a huge chunk in these consumables. They did before as well. So it would be a matter of, maybe sometime during the year, something will wash out, but we couldn't start the year saying, I think we can move $3,500 from this line to that line.
Who put NHDI down? Who recommended that?
Justin did. So both of the principals said that as a good faith gesture to take those out. And again, it was just in response to the budget committee recognizing the position that they took and trying to acknowledge that and respond to it. They said, take them out. So I just want to I do understand your comparison between 13 grand and 3,500. But we did really look at the consumable lines and the kind of the discretionary lines and make adjustments.
Can you give me an example of consumables? Is that pens, papers, things like that?
Yeah, so this line particularly is the workbooks for
Okay.
the 7th and 8th grade. My understanding is that right now the teachers aren't that enamored with the program that we received. And so the 7th and 8th grade grades across the district are providing and creating some of their own materials. So we didn't eliminate them entirely because there's money there for them to help support creation of other materials and distribution of that. But it was taking out the books, the
Yeah, because my only concern when I saw consumables is I don't want it to be like, oh, now everybody's buying their own pens.
Right, right. No, I don't think we
You
can
know,
do that
okay.
tight.
All right. So
But
you're saying the majority is curriculum material that
This
people are
is-
not happy with?
this
Okay.
is, yes, and for our first cut, it was instructional supplies, but that could run the gamut of many different tools, manipulating,
Okay, so the next point to really talk about is that these positions that have been cut out potentially are things that are also a matter of efficiency within the district. The non-union position is something that can be easily absorbed and should be, as I understand. I don't know if we
Yeah, I don't know.
talk about a person specifically, but
So both of these roles, we feel that the responsibilities can be absorbed within their respective departments.
so with that being
Without
said,
fighting.
if the district is moving towards simplicity and efficiency, do we support those as part of the 179, even if, maybe we take the vacancy management addition back here, take it back out, put it on, back into the vacancy management line and add back in the NHDI, is that how we feel we want to move forward? If, in fact, we want to say we do support this additional cut, because on Monday we said, no, we like the budget before this additional cut.
Mhm.
So do we want to move forward saying we're okay with the full $600,000 cut off version 2? Or do we want to go back to the $420,000 and leave it at that and have a separate line in the warrant saying this is the administrator's budget and this is the budget committee budget?
Could I speak to that? That's okay. And now I can't hear you, so.
We've got you loud. You're loud. No, not anymore.
You're muted.
Where's Brendan?
Nice.
How's that? Does that work? All right. So I did ask about the non-union position. This came up the other day, and I felt like I couldn't speak to it until I spoke with each of the principals individually. And they would like, if the money came back into the budget, they would like a chance to sit again as a team and do what some of the things Jenny spoke about. Are there things that are directly affecting children that we took out because we needed to? And can we go back and adjust the budget again? So it was mixed about whether that particular position would go back or not, and they would like time to decide if it should. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Can I, so marrying what I thought I heard you say and what Deb just said, it sounds like there's a potential to, if you were to take these positions out, that the functions that they perform still have to get done, and that whatever these departments are, feel that they could be reallocated within a structure that would not have those positions there.
Correct.
Okay, so if that were the case, going forward, I'd be very interested, I'm looking at you, Bill, would be very interested to hear if because then we're saying on face value, somebody else's job is going to change. And I think most people probably feel like the water is right there. So again, I'm not saying yes or no, but I think this is so specific to what those functions are that I couldn't support it either way, because I don't know what the realistic nature of it. If it really was such a great idea, we probably would have been doing it before. Not always, but sometimes. I don't know, I guess I'm just trying to temper with,
I think also that the initial, it was about 250,000 that the team came together and cut. That was a deep cut. So then to go back and cut 180,000, it was very difficult to piecemeal it, if that makes sense, because we had already taken 10,000 here, 5,000 here to get up to that 250. So trying to get 180,000, it really had to be about positions. So, deciding on those positions was difficult, very difficult. And then having to decide in a pretty short time, we really didn't have the opportunity to go back and say, okay, so how will this work without these people? So we may have an idea, but we've not had enough time to really sit down and see how exactly that would work.
and it's important, right? Because I can look at my budget and be like, oh, I just won't have a car. Well, that's great. You still got to get places, right? So I just, in terms of my initial reaction, I'm inclined to respectfully understand where the budget committee is coming and acknowledge that, but support the administrators. I have to believe that they did their best to keep things functioning and that would be my kind of vote at this point.
The version 3 budget.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not interested in having NHDI on there. And that has to get out of there. Cause it's gonna come across as the board cut something from Walpole. Whether Justin put it on there or not, he did that before, and then when it come to shove, it was this board's fault. So I understand it's 3,500. I'd rather have them find another place somewhere from that, because I see parents and kiddos being really negative about that cut.
So, if the board's vote stands from Monday, none of these cuts take effect. You've not authorized any of them. There's no impact to the default budget. I would just need, where do you differ from the budget committee? Is it gonna reside in the vacancy management line, which is the para line for the high school, so it's allocated fairly. And if you were to vote to decrease the budget by 180,000, you still have the opportunity to tell us, okay, we're not supporting the justifications, or we're not supporting this item. Where would you want us to put it? Would you want us to put it into vacancy management? We do have that option instead of removing these as individual items. Once a budget is passed, you have the option to allow us to make budget transfers.
And so as the budget sits, that's gonna be presented shortly, it's all out of vacancy management, so none of these positions
None of this is reflected.
reflected in those lines that people are gonna be looking at. So the question comes to us, are we holding firm that we do not want to cut the additional $179,000? Or do we support that we can cut it from the budget, we just will authorize different places?
I'm sticking firm with my decision on Monday. I think the version 3 budget was a good budget.
Yeah, I mean, that was the decision on Monday. That we wanted to move forward with. It seems like it almost is that this discussion could take place after the hearing tonight,
Yeah.
or at the end,
It's probably important that you came back together to have
No,
this discussion with everybody here at the table, only because after the budget is presented this evening, you're gonna take a position that is gonna be printed on the budget digest, so
Yes or no?
yes or no. So yes, this many votes yes, this many votes no, this many abstentions. So I think making sure that everybody's on the same page and has all of the information that they need is probably important.
One thing I'd like to put on the page is I think that there's other money that can be cut like not running the air conditioner on January 15th. Open a freaking window or something if you need it that cold in here, because this air conditioner is a complete waste of money right now.
Which we would have the opportunity to do if we support this wall. Either way, the budget committee is coming through with the reduced budget. And so it's just a matter of whether we support it to the public or whether we don't. We will have to find those places after tonight. So are we in a place where we want our budget to differ from the budget committee's budget? Is that what I'm hearing around the table? Well, I mean,
That's in the past, every year.
And I think it's meant to be, this is a checks and balances thing. We took what they said. It's, you know, it sounds like a great deal of conversations have been had about, you know, a variety of things to say, okay, well, can we, you know, what else can we do less with? And what I'm hearing is that you're not gonna improve quality by doing this, that the kids somehow are going to get less of a product in doing this. And obviously, I don't think that's what the budget committee wants. They want us to be fiscally responsible. And I think if the message is version 3 is as fiscally responsible as we can be relative to the mission we've stated we're behind. I think that's a different way of just, it's a tempered way of saying, yeah, we get it. This is a good, you know, back and forth and accountability thing, but.
And our meeting is the deliberative, so if you go that route, we're gonna need to stand up and stand behind that budget, and then also understand that the majority of voters may not even understand what Article 1 is even saying.
So in the Article 1 budgets, the budget committee line, no matter what, it's just, the only reference to the board will be that you don't support it.
I understand that, but there's gonna be different numbers.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't always look at it, and they don't always spend a considerable amount of time on it. So I just want that statement thrown out there that the people who are gonna be voting in March, it's gonna be a low voter turnout because it's March and there's nothing else on there. And I just wanna make sure that we know that, that's all.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's speak to what you support.
And Matt said, go ahead.
Yeah, tonight is your opportunity. Tonight is the budget hearing. Tonight is the board's opportunity to.
Try to sway.
To try to sway them, yeah.
Is there any chance that that we could get the data on what $179,099 does to the 5 towns' tax rates?
It's all in the handout that was shared, the
Which handout?
presentation.
Is that?
It's on the
Draft.
one.
Draft warrant articles,
Oh,
yeah, I don't even know.
but we have to find it. Version 3 compares to version 3.
so we need to go digging through all of this to find this in what, 5 minutes?
Version
No,
3.
no, you don't.
The information is all at the seats in there and it was
Yeah,
emailed
it's on
out
Article
earlier
1.
today.
Oh,
I
okay.
emailed it to the board and the budget committee.
But why he's asking, what's the difference between version 3's tax rate and
No,
this
I
tax
have
rate?
not.
Yeah, so.
That's the one that we will need for the deliberative session to
Yes.
say, you're talking about, you know, 1/4 of 1 cent of this
Yeah.
budget.
Well,
Yeah, so my problem was is that I had to prepare something based on.
Right.
I know, I totally
Okay, so-
understand.
we're gonna recess to the budget hearing and come back. We have a little more on the agenda to get through after the meeting. Just for clarification, we're going into the budget hearing and at Article 1, we are going to advocate for a different number, not including this 179.
That's correct.
Okay, so the next order of business is simply approval of minutes. I got a call from the Farwell Trust lawyer, because he wants to move forward with all of the paperwork that we gave him for them to do the work, but what he needs is approved minutes from the meeting where we. So Nick has really worked hard to get these for us for tonight. So in light of that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, January 6th, Wednesday, January 8th, and Monday, January 14th?
So the sixth is no longer. Not allow me to finish those up, so just the 8th and 14th is on the current agenda.
The 14th is when we have that.
8th and 14th.
So the 8th and 14th, I meant the motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Yeah, Monday was the 13th.
It's a full month. Full month.
I was gonna say, wait a minute,
So
I couldn't
sorry.
go on the
That's me.
13th, but I could have gone on the 14th.
And you weren't there?
You guys did it on purpose. 'Cause you wanted it.
I assure you everything, because I would have been with you on the 13th. if I
I have the actual document with the right date on it. It's not that, so yes.
So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I abstain.
I think all of the other things, that's all we needed to come back to do. So,
All right, so our budget stays and our differences in vacancy management, that's where we disagree. With the budget committee, because they didn't tell us where to put it, all I heard was vacancy management.
Yes,
so
and
I think
then,
that's the best.
and then after the deliberative,
We'll address it then at the end.
once we get that firm number, then if I understand what's going on, we'll do the deliberative. Once we get that firm number, then we'll come back to the table.
Mhm. Okay,
The administrators will bring back their requests.
Yeah, and then in March, if it's completely different, then we'll really come back to that angle.
I don't think it's gonna get any slower. We
um,
have more money. Which we don't necessarily have to spend.
so I don't. Trying to think about my documents for the state. I'm gonna prepare the MS 27 based on tonight that will be presented with the deliberative session. If the budget number doesn't change, I don't know that I can at that time change the allocation to functions. So. If the budget number stays as is, our difference with the budget committee will remain in vacancy management. I don't think I can make a change at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Well, if we want to, we could throw the budget committee a bone and say, if it's gonna stay here, just add $1 or reduce $1. Now it's changed. Now you can do what you want. Something like that. I mean, if the state's gonna quibble over that, we can quibble too.
I'll verify. Again, as I said, on Monday night, I have not been in this position before, so.
Yeah.
I think the only, I don't think I've had situations in which the proposal was to reduce the budget and it passed, so it's always stayed the same. Those items,
And I just want to apologize that I didn't make it clear that if we intended to stay with the administrator's budget, that it would be a third number in Article 1. So. Sorry that was not clear. I left this wrong.
We're not lawyers. This is a board that, everybody brings their expertise and their best, this is a really nuanced process to begin with, and then you add all of these other variables that are like otherworldly, so.
Yeah, I think you say it in like 5 minutes, right? You said all that. You said it would be underneath. And then you get out there and you're like thinking about it and you're thinking about it, and then Jenny hesitated and I'm like,
Cause I was like,
wait a minute now, and then I'm like, wait a minute, all I'm seeing is the default number. And then I'm like, well, we can't vote on I know what you were attempting to do, and I'm sorry if you feel like I undermined you, because I certainly wasn't trying to do that, but I certainly don't want the default voted on, because I do think that we can. The admin team has done a remarkable job this year in reducing the budget all on their own without the budget committee. And I definitely want to make sure that we showcase that in the deliberative.
I hope they heard that tonight by us standing up and saying that we had a different number.
Yeah, and I hope that we stress that at the deliberative, and I would most certainly stand up in 100% am in favor of that number that the admin did. Like I said, I mean, to come with a number and then come back, I think it was the following week with 250,000 less is remarkable compared to past years where $50 less felt like we were destroying the whole school, right? And Sarah and Joe know that better than Sarah, Joe, and Misty, who have been sitting here way longer than all of us, know. Well, Misty was on the other side of the table, but I'm sure it was painful for her too. You know, so to have 250,000 on top of what they already cut was pretty good.
Yeah, they worked hard. It's just, it still continues to be unfortunate in my mind that we weren't able to have the discussion with the budget committee on the night that it was set up to have the discussion. I mean, that was what that night was for, was to have the discussion, and we weren't able to have the discussion.
And well, and I think to that end, if we were to ever, God forbid, find ourselves in a similar situation, you know, I had felt that in that meeting, like, what are we doing here? But I didn't want to be, you know, pushing it, but it was like, no, this is the essence of this meeting.
Right.
If there is an issue, they absolutely have every right to bring it, but give us the opportunity to address it, to clarify, to understand.
Right.
And to me, this very much was a power play, and it didn't work out for anybody. And again, my understanding was that it was about, you know, either assumed or somehow somebody got information about certain supply items. And instead of just asking whatever the question was, it became this, you know.
We're not gonna say.
I mean, if I recall, like I think somebody else noted, at least 6 times people said,
What is
or
it?
some iteration of, this is the venue for this.
Right.
You know,
This is
and
what we're here for.
I believe that the nice lawyer lady, she made, when we were going through all the calendar stuff, they were talking about the very real impact that moving this all around was going to do. So again, I agree with everybody here that nobody's happy with how this worked out, but this was not of our making. You know, and if we are presented with, again, I think we are vocal to say, no, this is something we've dealt with before. These things are, this is the venue for this. Not that necessarily changes the outcome, but.
I really think it's a shame that the admin number, the school board number never is given the option to the voters.
That's the consequence of the statutory budget committee.
I understand that, but I'm just saying like that, it's unfortunate.
Agreed.
And I think it's also worth noting, it's, you know, my first full go around with you guys on this. I felt like most of the people on the budget committee predicated, you know, kind of where they went with things by saying that the admin had done such an admirable job. And then it was, you know, to me, it was like watching in real time going, so are we applauding this? I don't know. Feels yucky.
We had a motion to adjourn on the table.
Seconded real hard. The hardest second that's ever been seconded.